Godslayer. Yeah, I have to announce my rarest Destiny title whenever I enter a room. It's a complete Sigma move. I was going to use it to get this girl, but she told me she likes Warframe. So I, Shatterskate double slug oobed her in the face. Simp. Pantheon is a huge success in my eyes, and I want this video to be a letter to Bungie and the community on what kind of content I want to see in this game. I think the concept is fantastic, and the fact that it hasn't been done sooner is something I will never understand. I hope this kind of thing can be implemented to include all the raids in the game, and sort of gives me an idea for a final shape raid concept. Let's get into what Pantheon is all about. Pantheon is a boss rush, and it's a series of raid boss fights strung together in a row at a certain power level with small changes to each encounter from the original raid. We're going to go over each encounter week by week and talk about my thoughts on everything. First off, I want to say to anyone getting into Destiny raiding, this should encourage you, but do not play Pantheon as your first raid experience. This is absolutely not a beginner activity. Pantheon in its ideal setting should be played with others that have an incredible amount of knowledge of each encounter inside and out. The amount of people I have ran into in the last few weeks asking how certain encounters work is astonishing. If you have to ask that question in a Pantheon, please just leave. We will boot you. There is an easier version of this encounter in an actual raid. It is actually similar to master mode raids. Like, how many times was I gonna be the gaze holder in Golgoroth, and just like normal Root of Nightmares, everyone leaves at planets. Like, I swear, seeing this room puts the fear of God in Destiny LFG people. Let's start with week 1 in the first encounter, Golgoroth. Golgoroth had a few small changes that set the pace for the rest of the encounter list. A few small things: the knights that spawn before DPS are noticeably stronger. There are now 2 players that get the explosive light debuff, and the gaze holders now have taken minotaurs to deal with. I love the added pressure as a theme to the Pantheon. Some roles are simply less active than others, so having changes added to add more pressure to players that might otherwise be content in their roles is awesome. Normally, gaze holders just have to time their shots on Golgoroth's back and shoot some orbs. But now there are seemingly more orbs to shoot on top of the taken minotaurs manhandling you. The addition of the platinum timer is really cool as well, so it adds even more pressure to players, as you can't just make a safety build. No, you have to go on the offensive if you want that platinum score. A common theme here is that the Pantheon versions of these encounters are the best encounters in the entire game. A problem I have had with Root of Nightmares is that you had mostly 1 or 2 people doing all of the work. In Pantheon, that is absolutely not the case. Let's review Golgoroth. 2 players are doing gaze and 4 players are doing DPS. But 2 of the 4 players have to keep an eye on their surroundings to make sure they don't blow up other teammates and each other, and you're constantly shooting the orbs as well. Golgoroth was already a great encounter, but added pressure of DPS players and gaze holders makes it even better. The Caretaker has many more enemies spawning in all areas. In the symbol room, there are now bees that spawn in sometimes, which is just bullying at this point. The main pressure was added to the add clear and stun teams. There are once again many more and stronger adds in the arenas, and the stun team have taken phalanx that can spawn by the Caretaker, which is great for some added additional situational awareness that some might not otherwise have. Again, not many changes, but the ones that were added can really throw a wrench in the plan if not everyone is on top of things. I love again the platinum timer, which makes almost a mandatory 2 floor. If you are really good with symbols, you can 3 floor, so again, added pressure to the symbols team. Val the Disciple was already pretty good at involving everyone, so a 4 people on mechanics to add clear split is pretty solid in my opinion. Now we get to planets. A player has left your fire team. Okay, seriously, Destiny community, what is it with you and planets? Like, what is the problem, no matter what setting? If it's normal Root of Nightmares, Master Root of Nightmares, -5 Pantheon, -10 Pantheon, 15, 20 Pantheon, someone always leaves on planets. I have over 50 clears of Root of Nightmares, and I am not exaggerating when I say this. The literal only time I have had someone not leave on planets was the flawless run. I am not joking. You could run a damn case study on this. I must have entered the planets room 100 times now, and you're telling me 99 of those times someone has left? Like, Destiny community, what is the issue? And that is not just unlucky either. 99 out of 100 is a statistic. I'll say it. If you leave on planets, you're bad at the game. You signed up for a damn raid, not a carry. Man up and do something. Everyone that leaves planets should be publicly shamed. You people have driven me to insanity with these callouts. Number 5 is Burger King. Number 3 is the Great Wave of Kanagawa. You people have driven me insane. But when planets is done with a good team, oh baby! Once again, love the changes that they made to planets, and there are plenty. There are even more adds, a Tormentor is added to the mix, and my favorite, the random fire tornadoes on the platforms. This fire tornado, man, is so satisfying to watch because it reveals who says they're good at the game and who is actually good at the game. Yeah, occasionally you will get unlucky and it will spawn where you are standing to pick up the planet buff, but dude, watching a fire tornado slowly creep up on some egotistical Destiny player who can't back their skill for shit is so satisfying. Thank you, Bungie, for making planets even funnier because Destiny players are that predictable. Again, a 2-phase for the Platinum. This one was tricky on higher difficulties, and I love it because Golgoroth and Caretaker are a little bit easier, but planets is where it really ramps up the challenge. Aatrax Sovereign is the final boss of the -5 power Pantheon. There aren't that many changes, as really you can just one floor it on any difficulty. This was something I was hoping they would fix, much like Riven, which is another boss we will talk about soon. The only real changes are the Tormentor and beefier enemies. The emblem for this first Pantheon is pretty cool, but it is the weakest, which is good in my opinion. The hardest to get should be the best looking, but yet again, there aren't many changes here. I just wish you were forced to somehow do multiple clone damage phases, as it shows true mastery of the encounter. This, in my opinion, is the weakest of the Pantheons. Oryx Exalted is the final boss in the -10 Pantheon, and again adds some decent pressure to all the rolls. Probably the most notable change is the constant Light Eater Knight spawns. I love this again as it keeps the theme of keeping you on your toes. Normal Oryx is a blitz of taking care of everything and then followed by 2 more jump puzzle sequences. But each jump sequence has something going on now. Again, Tormentors are added and enemies are beefier. The real big difference here, however, is the post DPS stuff. If you get the bomb attack, it is indefinite until all knights are dead. I love the panic this sets in and almost guaranteed a few Guardian downs it will cause. The dome attack is also really neat with 2 Shades of Oryx spawning, which is a nice change. I think they should have just gone all the way with 3 Shades of Oryx, but that could have been a little ridiculous on -20. Oryx is already a pretty easy encounter, but anything to add some added pressure is a welcome change. The emblem for Oryx is also pretty cool as well. I think, however, the Tormentor spam, it's getting a bit much. For 4 encounters in a row, Tormentors spawn, and that was supposed to add extra challenge, which I welcome, but they despawn in most instances. In planets, they despawn when DPS starts. In Aatrax, the encounter is so fast it doesn't matter, and in Oryx, again, it disappears after the post-DPS phase. Rulk is the only one that seems a little bit tasteful, even though they still kind of despawn after DPS. I don't understand the point of the Tormentor if it's just going to despawn. If anything, this is my biggest critique of the Pantheon. Rulk Indomitable is the final boss of the -15 power Pantheon, and this has the most insane changes. However, I wish again the pre-DPS phase was a bit more engaging. While if you double dunk, yeah, it goes by really quick, but still it isn't that engaging. Luckily, Tormentors are added here as well, and as far as I know, you have to deal with them at least one time. I know you can ignore the last one but after DPS, but the antics are amplified unified with a second Rulk. Like, Bungie, what? 2 Rulks walking around and kicking you? That is insane. And hilarious, actually, and it even persists during DPS. However, there is a pretty popular cheese with Rulk, which makes him a snooze, but him flying off the map is also hilarious. Again, the emblem gets even better, which I love. Not much to say on Rulk, as he was already a great fight that was made even more chaotic. Riven. Yeah, baby, the Riven cheese is patched. Thank God you bots have been cheesing Riven for the last 6 years, while I, the Ultra Destiny Sweat Lord, have been sabotaging LFG runs by doing legit mechanics while everyone else tries to sword her. I just wish this was patched into the original Last Wish. They patched Riven in a few ways. Number 1, the joining ally spot is no longer there. And number 2, Riven has insane health resistance during the first 2 floors. I absolutely love it. Going into the drop is incredible, and man, it feels good when you get a good team that actually knows what's going on. Best part of the entire Pantheon, in my opinion. And in fact, I love that there are basically no other changes. There are some more adds, but of course, just do it legit was the challenge enough. Bungie, you're awesome, man. Keep doing that. Finally, we have Nezarec Sublime, which is the final boss of the -20 Pantheon. And wow, this boss, it is incredible to see just how a few little changes can go a long way. Nezarec for the longest time was my least favorite encounter of the final raid bosses, but now it is closer to the top of that list. First off, the runners are still running around, but thanks to the -20 power, the Gaze Holder has a much more important job. And now Ad Clear has more specific ads to clear. There are these immune enemies tied to those with the light and dark buffs, so yes, even Ad Clear is a partial mechanic now. Finally, you cannot stand on any of the pillars for DPS, and it's a lot more chaotic. Unfortunately, cheese spots have been found, and well, what can you do? The fact that Bungie said, no, you cannot stand there on the plates is hilarious. Like, if you stand on a plate for a few seconds, they just shoot the darkness beam at you and it nukes you. Again, Tormentors spawn and disappear after DPS, but I don't want to beat a dead horse here. The emblem for Nezarec is incredible, hosting all of the bosses in one way or another. I just kind of wish there was either some more detail, or because some of the bosses in that emblem are a little hidden, you really have to look for them, or maybe you could have outlined them with like some red or add some more color to it, like green maybe. But hey, Godslayer, what a title, man. It's right up there with Riven's Bane, Kingslayer, Fatebreaker, Reckoner, and Shadow as some of the coolest sounding titles in the entire game. So I guess I talked about all the encounters. Another additional critique I'll add is that some of the bosses in some of the raids got doubled down on. So like, for example, you have Golgoroth and Oryx, both from the King's Fall raid, but some raids just straight up got left out, like Vault of Glass and Crota's End. I hope someday these can also be included. So I talked about all the encounters, time to rank them. I'm going to rank them based on the factors on how much they changed and the overall new experience at -20. From worst to best, Atrax, Caretaker, Golgoroth, Planets, Nezarec, Rulk, Riven. Again, these are all great encounters. I just personally think that this is my order right now as of recording. That might change tomorrow or an hour from now, who knows. So final thoughts on the Pantheon. I think it is a great addition to the game, and I wish it was here to stay. The fact that it is gone in final shape is kind of an L in a typical Bungie move. If anything, I hope they can just be patched into the normal versions of the raids. And wow, Bungie, take note, this is so much better than Master Mode. First off, it is much more rewarding, and the additional challenge actually feels like a challenge, not just some arbitrary champion spam. I want to try and run this as much as possible, but unfortunately LFG do be LFG. I could also hope there is a -5 version of the Nezarec Pantheon. You could call it Shax's Test or something. I just think Nezarec at -20 all the time is a bit brutal. Like, yeah, I'm cool with the plates getting darkness nuked, but I also don't want to be randomly one-shot by one of the void tornado things.
Also, if I could make a dream encounter for the final shape raid, I would call it the medley. It is a phase of each final boss from every raid beforehand, but very quickly. So like just shoot the 3 oracles really quickly, then do damage to Atheon really quickly, and then move on to Crota and do that kind of thing. Just all really quickly in succession. I think it would be really cool, and for veteran raiders, it will breeze through this encounter very quickly, but for new players, it's gonna be a very long explanation. As for a revised Pantheon, include 1 encounter from every raid and make it the Witnesses perfected. In order: Golgoroth, Planets, Atrax, Galron, Rulk, Riven, Atheon, Valkor, Sanctified Mind, Ute, Insurrection Prime, Argos, Axis, Callus, and the Witness. Or whatever the Witness boss fight ends up being. Better yet, make a dungeon Pantheon. You can even do the same format of 4 bosses on -5 to 8 bosses on -20. In order, we could do Phalanx Echo, Achelous, Locus of Wailing Grief, and Zulmak for the first dungeon Pantheon, then Dulankaro for the second, Samuma for the third, and then Kel Echo and Nightmare of Keitel for the fourth, making the title Dungeon Master. And just hire me, Bungie. I'm the best, and as a Godslayer, you should respect me. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.